Hello, everyone. So what I'm going to be touching on today is a bit of custom functions. So the agenda for what I'm going to be covering in this presentation is pretty straightforward. There's four main points here. The title of the session is Advanced Automation. So we're going to start off with not so advanced automation with assignment rules and scoring rules. I'm going to try to spend as much time as I can on the workflows and custom functions because that's hopefully what you're all here for. One problem that I see, and I started on the regular customer support side for CRM. So one problem I always saw was really simple, straightforward, just wasting time. And what I'm talking about specifically is you have your CRM, and for most of you, the CRM is the heart and soul of your business. You know, outside of your employees, of course, your heart and soul and everything that you need to work with is hosted in your CRM system. So with the help of your marketing team and any other resources that you have, you're bringing in all sorts of records that you need to work with. So on the left side there, you can see those are lists that you have that you're bringing into the CRM. And on the right side is web forms. So these could be web forms from many different websites and different places. But all of it's coming into your CRM, and you need a good way to handle those leads. So the way we want to tackle that issue is with assignment rules. So assignment rules is pretty straightforward topic. It's just based on criteria, you can move the leads to the right person. So obviously this doesn't make sense if you're a one-person business, but as you scale your team, you don't want to waste your sales manager's time just reviewing leads that are coming into the system. Because your sales manager, I've worked with sales managers revamping their process. They should be managing people and coaching people and not spending time just managing the administrative work of handling leads. So an important thing to point out is the built-in assignment rules in CRM works with importing records and with Zoho web forms. I'll get back to that. There's a way to enhance that feature, but just know importing information and using Zoho web forms, whether that's a CRM web form or using Zoho forms itself, there's a way to trigger and push that information through the assignment rules. So importing records, pretty straightforward process. I hope most of you have done this. On the last step of the import process, there's a very simple option. You can assign the owner to a single person, or if you already have assignment rules set up, you just choose the assignment rule and it'll go through that. And as you can see there, the round robin it's a one-click option really to turn it on in your assignment rules. So that's a super common feature. Want to make sure you guys are using that. In the web forms, same thing as in the import process. There's just a drop down. You pick your assignment rule that you're going to submit all this information through, and it'll go to the assignment rules and assign it based on the criteria that you've preset. So that's all for slides. I'm going to jump in real quick and just show you where that's at. Okay, so here is our CRM system. Pretty much everything I'm talking about is under the setup page and the automation section at the top right. So we'll just jump right into assignment rules. So I only have one rule here. It can get a lot more complicated, but I just want to keep it simple, make sure everyone's following me. So round robin by lead type. So I have a system where I'm segmenting my leads by lead type. So we sell into these verticals essentially: nonprofit, school, medical, and of course the synergy market is very big. So straightforward, this is one assignment rule with multiple criteria. So the first criteria is the lead type is one of these two, and I'll jump into that. Choose from a round robin list. And I can choose specific users, or if I have my hierarchy set up, I can just choose a role, and that way it just pre-populates all the users of that role. So that's pretty straightforward, and the round robin pattern, it keeps track of it. Whether you're importing or using web forms, it keeps track of the last one, and it'll always stay on track of divvying out those leads in the proper way. And by the way, this can work in not only leads. So if you have stuff coming directly into the contacts or deals, you can do that as well. So a couple things just to make sure, little hiccups that people run into. So one rule at a time. So web form or importing, you have to choose one assignment rule. So just be aware of that. They work leads, contacts, custom module records, and just stress again, you have the option to choose during imports and Zoho web forms. Just a quick aside, there is an option. I've worked with people that they've developed their own web forms on their website. They don't want to use Zoho forms for whatever reason. There's a way to, and this is more for the developers here, or you can talk to your webmasters. When the information is submitted through that web form, they can push that behind the scenes to a Zoho CRM web form, and that triggers it to run the assignment rule. So it's just a little trick there. If you have your own web forms on your website and you don't want to mess around with changing those out and having to restyle the Zoho forms. In support, I saw this all the time. It looks like your normal CRM, but let's say I have a company of 50 sales reps. There's over 2,500 leads here, and it looks like they're all going to one person. And that person's not going to be able to handle all of these. So assignment rules, of course, is going to help those. But even then, I think I went too high with 50. Let's say there's 10 reps in here. So that's a lot of leads, 2,500 leads to go through. So I call this lead overload. So how are we going to take care of this? Super simple, scoring rules. So I'm sure anyone in marketing has heard of this. It's just based on criteria of the leads. And other criteria, I'll walk you through them. When records come into your system, it automatically gives them point-based score. Ours is on a 1 to 10 scale per criteria, so I'll walk you through that. So very simple, score it. Our marketing automation software has scoring, so there's multiple places where scoring can come into the system. You just want to make sure that we're going to walk through and you know how to set this up and start testing it out in your own system. So the main point, focus on what matters. If you can get rid of some junk leads right off the bat because they're scoring a negative, that's just more time for your sales reps to focus on what really needs to be taken care of. And of course, this depends on whether your marketing and all your efforts are bringing in enough leads. So that's a whole other issue I'm not going to get into. But this will help you if that part of your business is going well. So just like assignment rules, this can work in leads, deals, and accounts. So before I jump into the demo, I just want to make sure everyone understands how this works. So when you set up scoring rules, there's going to be a scoring section that'll be added to the records in your system. And right off the bat, it's kind of hard to know what these different scores are talking about. So on the right side, touch point scores, these are everything outside of the fields inside the record itself. So these are touch points from emails, emails from the CRM, emails from Zoho campaigns, responses to surveys that you send out, Zoho sign documents that you send. So all these are considered touch points that are not the fields of the record itself, but just touch points of that person in various channels. So if you do the math there, positive 50, negative 20, you get a touch point score of 30. On the left-hand side, this is the fields that make up your record. So lead type could be one. Lead source is a super common one. That's probably the most common one if you have things coming in from different places. And so at the very top left, the score is just the combination of basically the sum of the lead, the scoring within the record itself and the touch point scores. Okay, so let's jump into a quick demo. Again, I want to get through this quick so we can get into the fun stuff with the workflows and custom functions. So we'll go back to the setup page, go into the scoring rules. Again, it's under the automation section. And straightforward. And so at the top, just like everything in the CRM, it's module specific. Before you get in and start putting a bunch of criteria, make sure you're doing it for the right module. So again, I'm just focusing on leads here. Really simple things. City is Austin, add 10 points. Okay, this rule doesn't make any sense, but I'll show you why I did this. Obviously, it shouldn't be negative points if there's something in the company field, because that's useful information. So at the very top, lead fields, this is what I'm talking about on the left side of the scoring summary. Everything else below here are the touch points. So email insights from CRM, survey, campaigns, and social media even, and Zoho sign. So if you don't see these options in your account, it's just because you haven't set up the integration with these different channels. So yeah, make sure you have those integrations set up if you're not seeing it when you're going through this section here. So I wanted to jump into a lead that I was messing around to show you how that was set up. All right, so there's a score summary. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see that. So the city was Austin, which gave it 10 points. The company has something in there. So in my system, I told that to give me negative 3 points. I was just doing that to test out this field score ratio. So for every 3.33 positive, I get 1 negative. This is an advanced feature that I built into my system. This is part of the custom functions. So we haven't even gotten into that point, but just an example of any time you think you can expand upon the basic features, workflows and custom functions are going to be where it's at. And by calculating this, I can use this in my reports. And an example is maybe a record has got 200 and a positive score, but it also has 190 and a negative score. So obviously something weird's going on there. Just because it has a high positive score doesn't mean it's realistically a good record. So that's why this ratio thing, if there's a huge ratio difference, there's tons of positives with this record. All right, so now getting into the good stuff. This is the workflow editor. If we're talking automation, workflow rules that's the place you have to start. So this is what triggers everything to happen in the system. So a lead is created, make an email go out, and you can set up a series of emails to go out. If one field is changed, update another field on that record. So many different variations and ways you can do this. The biggest difference between the regular workflows and this one is, of course, just choosing a function as the instant action at the end of the workflow. So functions have a ton of use cases. I'm going to jump into that. What is it? All it is based on the workflow trigger, it's going to run a Deluge script. So if anyone doesn't know, Deluge is our internal scripting language. Very easy to get started. I would recommend just learning the basics of scripting, like what's a variable, if-else statements, and just data formats. But once you know the basics, I promise you, it's super simple. I learned all of this in the past couple of years. And use cases. So the biggest, downside on the basic workflows is if you're doing any field updates, it's all within the same record. So if a lead is created and the type is this, send an email. But with custom functions, what we can do is when a lead is created, go search, let's go search in the deals module for some reason. So you can go across modules, find information that you need, and based on that, like super complex conditions, you can make all sorts of things happen. You can make it based on the lead website. You can make it automatically create a deal, before you've even done anything manually. And like I said, advanced conditions. So let me jump back real quick. The conditions portion of a workflow, sometimes you can't really set all the conditions that you need. So again, we can set all the conditions and the actions to take place in one function at the end of the workflow. So here's a series of actions. Actually have a good amount of time, so I'm going to try to make my way through all of these. I'll start off with simple ones, and I'm going to try to get more and more advanced as I go down the list. So hopefully you find this really helpful, and you can start thinking about ways that you can build functions in your own system. And like I said, if you can't build functions, I'm going to let you know how to get help from us. The most common one is to sum up the account revenue for all one deals. So you have leads coming into your system, you're converting them, you're closing a lot of deals, but now you need to find a way to, who are your whales? Who's bringing you all this business for your system? Out of the box, there's not a super easy way to see which accounts are bringing you in the most revenue. You can run reports and everything like that, but it'd be really nice if you could just go into the accounts, do a filter, show me all the accounts where the total revenue we've collected is over $100,000. So that sort of thing we can do through a custom function. I'll come back to this list, but I'm going to go right into showing you how that works. All right, so I have this company XYZ. I already have it calculated here, 806,000. There's 3 deals here, but you'll notice there's a total of 3 deals. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see that. So 3 deals, we have 5,000, 6,000, and 800,000. I'm sure you can all do math. That doesn't come up to the 806,000 number, so it's easy to follow along. I just set in the conditions in the function itself to only include the ones that are in the closed won status. So you can do this a variety of different ways. So if you think about it, you can have more than just a total revenue field. You can have a total closed won revenue. You can have a total revenue in this other specific stage, or a combination of a few stages. So all sorts of things you can do. It just comes down to your unique requirements, and then you just set it up. So I can do a live change here. So let's go into one of these deals. I'll go into this first test deal. Oh, that one's not closed. All right, so I don't know the business case for this, but let's just imagine we fat-fingered the number in here and we got the total wrong. So let's go ahead and fix that. So the total amount of this deal, I'm going to change it to 25,000. Hit save. Let's go back to the company, and you can see the total revenue is automatically updated. So the way that's connected is I set it up whenever a deal is modified. So it goes to the account. From the deal, it goes to the related account, and then it goes and searches through the deals module for any others under that account and just sums them up. So pretty straightforward logic. It just comes down to knowing how to build the script, and I'll show you that real quick, and we'll try to walk through it just to show you how short the code is and how simple it really is to build. So the functions, just as another aside thing, a good thing to know, workflow rules. If we go into the actions here under the automation section, this is where we can pre-configure email notification, tasks, field updates, webhooks, and custom functions. So anything that you build under this actions section, this can be used as the actions at the end of a workflow. So if you know that you have these types of email notifications that you'll eventually use in your workflows, you don't have to start building the workflow first and then build the email notification. You can just get it done here. Same thing for custom functions. So when I have a new idea of some automation that I'm trying to build, I'll just jump into the custom function section here, start building a function, because I can test it all in here, make sure it works before I start worrying about the workflow. Let's go into the workflow. And so it's this last one here. So really straightforward. When a deal is created or edited, the account name isn't empty because I need an account to go search and find other related deals, and then the function itself. And that's all there is to this workflow. I'll zoom in a little bit. And for anyone from a programming background, it's really important for you to add comments into what you're doing. Very likely that you won't be there forever. So when other people in your company are working on it, or even you're coming back to look at it, 6 months later, you're not going to really know what you did. So adding notes here, it's just the 2/ marks. The system ignores that, so you can add as many notes as you want within the function editor. So when a deal is created or edited, this first line runs. I get all the potentials, so I'm going to store in a variable called all potentials. I search through the deals where the account name is matched to the account of this deal. Straightforward. I get all the potentials under that account. I set a baseline total, so I'm starting at 0. So as I'm going through the deals, I'm going to keep adding, starting from that 0 point. So for each deal in that all potentials search I did, get the stage of that deal. If the stage is the closed won state, that's the only ones I care about adding up, then the total now equals whatever the total is at that time, so 0, plus the first deal. And it'll keep looping through the section for each deal that it found in the search. And then at the very end, it just updates the account, and that specific field, I tell it what to throw into that field. So it's a pretty standard flow for all the workflows. You, based on a trigger, so when a lead is created or a field is updated, go pull some information that you need to go with the rest of your function, loop through something to make it happen, and then update the records at the end. So that's the typical flow for any sort of function that you're setting up in your system. All right, so I don't have a demo of this one. It's really simple to follow along with. So I see this all the time. People want to make sure their account information is in sync with all the contacts in their system. So for example, let's say on the account side, you keep track of the website, like their website URL. So you don't want to have to update it on the account side and then go to each contact and manually update those. So we just set a trigger when the website field on the account is updated. Just go to all the related contacts and do the same thing. So that's a really simple, just field update across modules, but I'm sure everyone here has instances where they need that to happen. Because sometimes, you can only, for example, the sync to from CRM to campaigns. If you want to do an instant sync, you can't do that with the accounts module. So sometimes you need that account information in the contact side. So hopefully you're able to follow along with that a little bit. But just think of any use cases where when a field updates, it needs to populate all the related information. So same thing from deals. So if something changes in a deal, you can go to all the contacts that are connected to that deal and make something happen. So if there's already a connection between the different records in your system, the functions allow you to jump back and forth through those really easily. Another good example, I see this all the time. So people come to CRM, they want to use it as like an activity manager to manage their tasks. Some people even throw their personal stuff in there. I wouldn't personally do that. It gets complicated enough as it is in the CRM. But people get to the point where they have so many tasks open in their system that they just give up on using it. Especially when you have workflows that are automatically creating a bunch of follow-up tasks, it gets really insane really quickly. So a very simple workflow and function is, so once a deal is closed, it just goes and any open tasks related to that deal, it just closes them out. There's no need for those to still be there. Same thing on the lead side. If you have a lead and you mark it as not qualified or as a junk lead, again, you don't need all those open tasks, hogging up the space on your homepage or in the activities module. So just little things like that. If you find yourself doing the same task over and over and over again, there's probably a way to automate that. Just give some thought into, line by line what would happen, and then you reach out to us and we can tell you if it's possible or not. And then we have an internal team that builds these functions. So just want to stress that as long as you have an idea of how you want it to work, contact the team. We'll tell you if it's possible, and then we get back to you with the function. Email contacts on a deal stage change. So, all right, so I'm inside of a deal record here. This could be potentials or opportunities in your system. Hopefully that's not confusing anyone. But there's multiple contacts, in this associated to this deal. So there's one main contact that's going to be in this. There's a contact name field at the top of the deal, but one of the related sections is contact roles. So this is often the case, especially if you're working in medium-sized businesses or businesses of any size. There's often multiple stakeholders involved when trying to work on a deal. So you want to keep everyone in the loop. So what I want to happen is when I change the stage of the deal, it needs to notify all these people to let them know what's going on, because these are outside people. They don't have access to log into your system and see what's going on. So we just want to send them an email. So it seems super simple, right? You would go to the workflows, say when the deal stage changes, send an email, because the email that's a built-in function of of the workflow actions. Problem is, you can only send it to that first contact. There's no way built in to just send it to all the contact roles. So with the custom function, straightforward. When the deal change happens, it just goes and grabs all the contacts and sends an email. The email itself, this is the part where it gets tricky. The email itself is designed in the function as well. So the HTML of the email has to be done in that. It can get as complicated as you want or a simple text message. But you can throw images and all kinds of stuff you can in a normal email. You just need to kind of understand how HTML works. So I'll show you an example of that. So this deal, I did this earlier. I changed it from one state to the identified decision makers. So on the fly, it threw in the name of the deal, it threw in the stage of the deal in the subject of the email, and then it populated. Let's keep it going. That's not really helpful, but obviously any other information from the deal record, you can merge it into the email and get it as complicated as you want to do. I can do a quick live thing here. So let me just change the stage to proposal price quote. If you want to get real fancy, you can make it happen when you change the proposal price quote. It gets all the products related to this deal, builds a quote automatically, and sends that information. So you can chain automation using the workflows. Make sure to check the timeline of the records in your system. That way it keeps the log of what's happening. So, I see I updated the stage, it ran this function and sent out the email. That's what it's telling me it did. And it also ran the update total revenue on the account, because that one I have running on deals as well. Let me jump into my email, and there it is. Threw in the deal name and the updated title right there in the subject. Let's get going with some more examples here. Dynamic email template. So I alluded to this a little bit. I had a really cool situation with a client that I'm working with where they're also using Zoho inventory. So when the function happened, whatever criteria he set for wanting to trigger this email, it actually builds up the HTML email template and goes to Zoho inventory and grabs information from Zoho inventory. So it's not even in the CRM. It goes and finds products and options that the new lead said they would be interested in. So the lead came in through a web form that triggered a workflow, and based on the criteria of that lead, it searched Zoho inventory, found some suggestions, built an email, sent it out. So really cool way to, and that's, you set it up once and you just monitor it. There's no need for you to manually do that first contact, as long as you set up the criteria and the logic correctly. I'm not going to do that one as a live one, but I can show you or what the email looked like. Ignore the fact that it's showing the same item there. I did that because I had never used inventory before, so I just decided to see if I could do it, threw in one item, and just made it happen. But all of this was built dynamically in the workflow function itself. So I didn't design this template in a visual editor. I had to tell it through the script to do that. But if you think about this is more than just connecting to Zoho inventory. In the functions, we can run API calls to contact any third-party system on the web. So any system that has a REST API or an endpoint that you can hit, get information and pull in, workflows just open up the entire internet to that. So if you have an ERP system that your big corporate headquarters is using, if they give you access to their APIs and endpoints, you can still bring in information on an as-needed basis. So just something to keep in mind on, especially if you have developers that you can reference and get help from. They can build and connect your CRM to any number of third-party systems. Auto-populate subform. So this one's really cool. I built this one over the past hour and a half or so while I was watching the other sessions. So, and the idea I came up with this one is it's like a real estate business. So a lead comes in, maybe you got information about they're looking for a house with this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms, and a square footage size. So on the fly, I've created a custom module called property listings. This is where I store the information about my active listings that I can connect to people. So what I'm doing is when a lead is created, it automatically searches through here, matches the criteria, and pulls those suggested properties into the lead right off the bat, just from the lead being created. So I'll jump into a lead and show you that. Got Drew Scott here. So this is a subform. It's basically a mini table inside any of your records. So the property search information, this came from the web form, or I can modify it. Let's say I call them and they're like, oh, actually I want some square footage that's at least 4,000. So if I modify that, you can see, let me jump to my property listings here. Square footage right here, there's only one property that fits the bill right off the bat. So if their minimum size is 4,000, once I save that, refresh the page, the workflow ran, all the functions ran, and it updated the information in that subform dynamically. So there's no more jumping back and forth. You just update what you need to and the function runs, and I'm sure you can think of a lot of use cases for that. So again, flag me down if you want to chat about that some more. Custom round robin, so assignment rules, just jumping back to that real quick. We made it pretty clear that through the import or through a CRM web form, that can trigger the assignment rules and do a round robin. If you have a third-party system that's pushing in records through a custom API or a different web form or a different integration, whatever, we can trigger a function and the instant action at the end it's the same round robin type of function, we just have to define it. So, and this can get a lot more advanced than even the built-in round robin function. So again, if we're talking criteria, so the regular assignment rules, you can pick criteria from the lead record, fields of the lead. But again, if we need to, when a lead comes in, search conditions across different records, so see if there even is a property that's going to fit the bill for this person or not. So if there's not a property, maybe I have a rep who works with finding new properties, and that's their specialty. So through the assignment rule, I want to make sure it goes to that person. So that's just an example of an advanced round robin feature. Already talked about APIs. Any system on the internet, you can, through the custom function, connect and make it happen. This is again just to show you an example of open tasks. So this deal, obviously it was closed today, closed in one, but we still have these open tasks, and they were due a while back. We never got to them, but somehow we closed the deal. We want those to be closed, so we can do that through the custom function. So when it triggers, it'll go and automatically close those deals. So a few pieces of vocabulary to know when you want to reach out to support. And a lot of times, the main thing we want is you coming in knowing the terminology. That's going to make everything super simple. So API names, that's the number one thing. If you need a function done, come to us saying, this is what needs to happen, these are the fields involved, and we'll get it done. Let me show you real quick where the API names are. Go under Setup. Under Developer Space, we're going to click on APIs. There's a tab up here. By the way, you can monitor your usage and any failures, APIs here. API names. And here's all your modules. So every module is going to have an API name as well. So if you change the name of your module, make sure to reference the actual underlying the API name of that module. That way, there's not a ton of back and forth trying to build this code for you. I'll jump into my leads. If you have multiple layouts, you can filter down between those layouts. But let me find a good example for you. There we go. So lead image. You can add images to the leads in your system. If you come to us and tell us the lead image, we'll try to build a code with that, but it's not going to work. So we need what's over on the right side. Okay, so again, setup, APIs, API names. Just make sure you know how to find those. Contact support, tell us what you want to do. We'll get our Deluge team to build it for you. I know I've said that 100 times. I just want to make that really clear. We're here to help you. Just do what you can to help us and make it as efficient as possible. So schedules. So we know what workflows are. Something happens, it triggers something else to happen. Straightforward. Schedules, cool thing about them is they don't require a trigger other than time. So schedule is based on your schedule. So you can say once a day, once every other hour, once a month. Based solely on what you configure there for the timing, it'll run some Deluge script in the background. So same functions that you can do in a workflow, it's just set on a timer, and it'll run in the background without anyone having to manually edit and force it to run. Examples. So a few examples. Custom duplicate check. So this is a very common issue. There's dupes coming into your system all the time. Maybe it's when a new lead comes in, it's not checking the contacts. So in the background, every night, you can have your system go through the leads, the new leads for that day, and say, hey, one by one, let's take these leads, let's look at what's already in our contacts. If it finds a match, we can delete the lead, we can just tag it, possible duplicate, that way you can go in and review it the next day. What else do we have? I see this a lot all the time. So every day, again, with the new records from that day, in the background overnight, 1 in the morning, it's going to take all those new updates and just push them out to your third-party system. So if you have like an auditing team or something that doesn't have access to your CRM system, but they still need to review what's going on, you just have the information pushed overnight. Look for idle deals. So sales manager maybe doesn't have time to manually review all the deals, especially they need to go on vacation every once in a while. So you want to have an automated system that's based on whatever criteria you have. It'll look for deals that maybe we don't need to spend time on those anymore. So it'll tag them for review by a manager. And again, going back to those automatically closing tasks. Because if you're using tasks in the system, you no doubt have hundreds of open tasks. So building some sort of automation to help you keep track. And the whole point, at the end of the day, your CRM system should help you be more efficient, right? You're not in there to make it complicated and just be a data dump for all your information. Especially, you have people coming in, maybe they're specialized in field sales, but they hate computers. That happens all the time. So we just need to automate as much as possible just to make it really easy, and it helps with onboarding your new users and all of that. So that's all I got.